Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's good to be back. It is so good to see everybody. How are you doing today? Let me know in chat if everything is up and running good. I think we should be. I think the mic and everything should be sounding great. What is up, everyone? Hope you're all doing great. We've got some super good topics to talk about today, especially one really big one that just broke. Literally, as I was setting up the stream, I was in the middle of making my thumbnail, and it was originally going to be Spider-Man 2 in the thumbnail, right? Because we had that big Spider-Man 2 blowout that went out yesterday, and that's still a super big, super important topic to discuss. But we found out PS5 Pro details. Wow, dude, that's pretty exciting, right? And that broke just before this stream went live. So that's obviously a major topic that we're going to want to discuss. We got some details. We can talk about if we think it's a good idea that Sony's going to do this, if we think it's going to be a bad idea, maybe what the price of this thing is going to be, a whole bunch of stuff if you guys want. Ray is saying everything's sounding and looking good. Thanks so much. Great to see some of you guys. Ken Doyle, great to see you, saying good afternoon. Good to see you. What is up, Red Dead Series? What is up, Johnny G22? Hope you guys are all doing great. So let me go over really quick these PS5 Pro specs right off the top and the info that we found out. And then we'll start rocking on some polls. We'll start rocking on your guys' comments and questions. You know, all of the good stuff that we do here in this chat. So here is the details that we got, and these come via Tom Henderson. So the whole reason that I felt obviously comfortable tweeting out and sharing this and all of that sort of stuff is because Tom Henderson has become a very reliable source for PlayStation hardware info. A lot of times you guys don't see me really sharing rumors on my Twitter feed because a lot of it's just BS, you know? So I really only cover like a rumor if it's coming from someone that I think is very credible. And whenever it comes to PlayStation hardware side, Tom Henderson has become arguably the most reliable person in the industry, interestingly enough, you know? In that specific, like, lane of information gathering, Tom Henderson really has that nailed down. Keep in mind, Tom Henderson correctly reported 100% accurately on the Q handheld before anyone else reported anything about that. Then Sony announced it, and it lined up exactly with what Tom reported. Tom was, I believe, the first to report on the DualSense Edge controller. He was the first to report on the InZone line of products, the headphones, and the monitors that they made. Like, he's very clued in to the PlayStation hardware side, and he's been covering this discless PS5 that's going to launch later this year for a long time, and we haven't had that outright confirmed yet, but everything's pointing to him being also correct on that one. So in other words, you know, we don't know for 100% sure, but you can probably take this to the bank that it's accurate considering how good his track record has been with PlayStation hardware. So here's what he reported today. Its code name is Project Trinity, and this is funny because yet again, this lines up with what we know from Sony in the past. PlayStation VR 2 was codenamed Project Morpheus, and then PlayStation 4 Pro was Project Neo. So clearly, Sony, someone at Sony really likes the Matrix because they codename their hardware after Matrix characters. So this one is Project Trinity. It's been in development since early 2022. Dev kits are going out in November. It has 30 WGP and 18,000 MTS memory, accelerated ray tracing, and it's targeting a November 2024 release. And I had a lot of people replying, not a lot, but I had some people replying saying, hey, AMD can't do, you know, accelerated ray tracing. This can't be a real rumor. Well, interestingly enough, we have a patent that came out that exactly lines up with Tom Henderson's reported on when the PS5 Pro started development. This is very interesting. There was a Mark Cerny patent that also started in early 2022. He filed a patent in early 2022 for accelerated ray tracing in a console environment, and that lines exactly up with when this supposedly started development. So everything's really coming together here, that it looks like this thing's really coming. Now, Tom Henderson also said that it's going to have an 8K performance mode. I suspect that is going to be like probably checkerboarded 8K or something like that. I really do not expect the PS5 Pro to be able to do native 8K in games. Maybe if it's something like very, very simplistic in visuals, but you're not going to be playing Horizon Forbidden West in 8K, you know what I mean? So maybe it's going to have some sort of upsampling type thing in there to get you a somewhat 8K looking image, but don't expect this to be native 8K. There's just no way. But he did also say it's going to have way more stable 4K 60 FPS, which is what a lot of people have been wanting. So pretty interesting info there. The other big news story that we can talk about is that Activision Blizzard acquisition has been delayed. Now, keep in mind, all signs still point to this thing closing. This delay is really not that big of a deal at all. It essentially basically had to get delayed. It wasn't one of those situations where it was like, what a curveball for Microsoft. Now, last chat we were saying it looked like it might close by the date. But once we found out what was actually going on with the CMA in the UK, once they were in front of the judge and they were saying how like they had to like really quickly wrap this up, we basically knew as soon as you started listening to that, oh, okay, this isn't going to get like locked down this week, but it's probably going to be finished very, very soon. I don't think there's anything to worry about really on Microsoft's end of this failing or anything like that. It's just going to take a little bit more time to close it. The deadline's been extended to October, and keep in mind that doesn't mean that, oh, now we have to wait till October for this to close. This could close next month, right? This could close in August. It could close in September. We don't really know. It's just they've extended their agreement with Activision out to October just in case it takes that long. But this could still wrap up essentially any time. It just depends how long it takes for these final few things to wrap up. But nothing to really worry about there for Microsoft. And yeah, let's start getting rocking and rolling, everybody. So, if this is your first time ever as part of my live chat, the way it works, it's a stream, it's a show, it's 100% driven by you. Your comments, your questions, you just drop them into chat and we talk about the latest news in the video game industry. There's going to be a few ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method. You just type a question, whatever you want, it pops into chat, and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can. If you want to guarantee that I get to your question, there's going to be, sorry, two ways to do that. First of all, of course, there is the super chat method. You just type a donation, whatever you want. It alerts me and I get to super chats immediately. The other way to guarantee that I get to your question is going to be by becoming a channel member. Channel memberships are $4.99 a month. You just click the join option. Whenever you become a channel member, the thing that I guarantee to you is that every single stream, I will answer every single channel member at least one question. Now, I can't guarantee necessarily, depending on how big the chat gets, that I can get to every member question, but I guarantee that every member in the chat gets at least one answered, and oftentimes even more than that. It just depends how full the chat gets, but you're guaranteed at least one every stream by being a channel member. All right, guys, I think that's it for off the top. I think that's it for all of the stuff. There's no real housekeeping notes. I'm just glad to be back. I'm glad I'm back in my mode, you know, after having 4 weeks away. I'm just very glad to be back with you guys. No super chats off the top, but we do have some channel members, so let's hit those channel members really quick. Hamish Lee Ford saying hello. What is up, Hamish? Great to see you, buddy. Joe Secchi here, channel member. Hello, Benji. What's up? About Final Fantasy 16, back in the PS1 era, it was the biggest Japanese third-party IP. Then the market expanded sensibly in the next 20 years, but the two most recent Final Fantasies will probably still not surpass the sales of 15 or 7 on PS1. In the meantime, a lot of Japanese third parties surpassed Final Fantasy, Monster Hunter, Souls, Resident Evil, Persona 5, Nier Automata, yet Square Enix is extremely satisfied by Final Fantasy 16 sales. Is it an implicit admission that mainline Final Fantasy is simply past its prime and no longer the massive event it once was? It does feel like that to me. So yeah, there was a lot of discussion about Final Fantasy 16, both whenever the 3 million sales were first announced, as well as now Square Enix just outright said that they not only were happy with sales, but they said that they were like extremely happy with sales. And this caused a huge debate. Is Square Enix lying? They're not lying, guys. They wouldn't say, listen, Square Enix, if there's any publisher that is more than happy to throw their own games under the bus, it's Square Enix. Not that they're never, you know, happy with sales, but like, I mean, as recently as Forspoken, literally their last big giant AAA JRPG, they outright threw that game under the bus and said, you know what, it sold really bad and we're disappointed in it. Now, I never expected 16 to launch. I considered, and I even tweeted this whenever the game launched. I said, wow, the 3 million sales at launch to me was actually a very impressive number. Because I was actually predicting somewhere in like the 2 million range. So to see 3 million in just a few days on the current PS5 install base, I really don't see how anyone could expect that game to have launched much bigger than 3 million. To me, that was a very pleasant surprise. I don't see how someone could expect 4 or 5 million out of in just a few days, right? It wasn't like in 3 weeks. It was a few days on an install base that was sub 50 mil, and also in a situation where, Japanese software for PS5 is just not doing well. If you look at the charts, if you look at all the information that we're getting out of Japan, PlayStation 5 software sales are just not strong there. So whenever you take everything into consideration, a much smaller install base than what we saw, for example, for Final Fantasy VII Remake, the state of software sales for PS5 in Japan, and et cetera, I considered 3 million a great launch. So I wasn't surprised at all to see Square Enix say that they were very, very happy with that number, because I don't realistically see how you could expect more than that. Now, that being said, it's also not like the most incredible thing I've ever seen, and the legs are just through the roof, and now, we know this thing's going to sell 10 million units. Like, the thing you have to really wonder about 16 is, even though its launch sales, in my opinion, are very good, the question is, what are legs going to look like? Because we also saw 7 Remake, it appears, be very front-loaded. We never got an updated number past the 5 million for 7 Remake. So who knows? I suspect it's nowhere near 10 million, or else I think they would have definitely said something if the number was that high. I definitely think it's above 5 million. But where is that? Is that at 6 million? Is that at 7 million? Who knows? But it did, considering how fast it hit 5 million sales, to then get no updates after that for years, you have to wonder, was that thing super front loaded? And that's also going to be the question for 16. Yeah, that 3 million number in a few days is super impressive considering all the factors that we're talking about here. But what's sales going to look like a year from now, 2 years from now? That's a huge question. I would say, Joseki, I think there is a big debate on if Square Enix keeping Final Fantasy locked down to just PlayStation is a good move or not. I've said before, they better be getting paid an absolutely massive bag by Sony in order to keep doing this. And I don't just mean keeping it locked down to PlayStation like, oh, they're going to sell so many copies on Xbox if this was on Xbox, because I think we all know, Final Fantasy 16 would absolutely sell some on Xbox. It's just incorrect to say it wouldn't sell. But it's not going to sell anywhere near what the PlayStation version is going to be. The bigger issue for me here is it's also not even on PC at launch. Like, it's completely locked down to PlayStation, and you have to wonder how much that's hurting the brand by not being available everywhere. Nowadays, if I'm a third-party publisher, I never strike an exclusive deal on any platform unless you're getting paid a bag. Games are becoming incredibly expensive. You need them to be as visible as possible, as available as possible on as many platforms as possible, unless you're a first party, of course, then things are a little different. But if you're a third party, again, if Sony is literally fully funding these Final Fantasy games, then yeah, go for it. If I'm Square Enix and I'm like, oh my God, they're paying for basically my entire budget, of course, yeah, lock that thing down exclusive, who cares? But if Sony's not paying them a massive, massive bag, you gotta wonder, man, is it really worth the potential damage you're doing by having these games, particularly on PC, not available at launch? And also, listen, maybe they're not going to sell a lot on Xbox, but you absolutely know Microsoft would be more than happy to throw a Game Pass check at them. Look at what they're doing with the Persona series, right? Persona didn't come over to Xbox and hit Game Pass out of the goodness of Atlas's heart. It's because Microsoft's clearly signing them huge checks to be on Game Pass. So, like I said, to me, if this is a good thing or a bad thing, it all comes down to how much Sony's paying. But Square Enix better be getting paid a lot of money to keep locking these games down the way they are and not launching on PC until much later. They've outright said basically that 16 is probably going to be at least a year after launch before it comes on PC. They better be getting paid a lot. That's what I'll say, Joseki. That is what I'll say. Because I do think there's an argument that it's hurting the overall brand awareness by being so locked down. MD, Benji, are you seeing Barbenheimer tonight? I'm going to see Barbie tomorrow, And then Oppenheimer, I'm going to have to go completely by myself because I don't know anyone that's interested in seeing that movie, unfortunately. So I'm not sure when I'm going to see Oppenheimer. I'm going to see it super soon, sometime over this next week, but it won't be tonight. Barbie for me is tomorrow because I'm going with some people. Very excited to see Barbie. And Oppenheimer sometime in the next week. Can't wait to see it. I'm hearing both movies are great. Barbie's listen, the Barbie tracking for the box office is absolutely bananas, guys. This thing might hit something nuts like 150 million opening weekend domestic. I don't know if you realize how absolutely utterly insane that number will be if it hits it. It did over 20 million in Thursday previews. Oppenheimer did over 10, which is better than we're seeing from like a lot of these big summer tent poles. Better than you're seeing from The Flash, from Indiana Jones, from Mission Impossible for an R-rated 3-hour historical drama. I made a tweet about this. You guys know I love to follow the box office just as much as I love to follow video game sales. I don't tweet about the box office as much, but I've been researching and, getting involved in the box office community for well over a decade as well. And this is great news because this summer has been filled with flops. Not that there hasn't been some successes. Guardians 3 did super well. That movie's at over 850 million, I believe, last I checked. Great result. We saw Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse do super good. But there's been a ton of bombs or underperformers, too. So Barbenheimer just absolutely soaring right now. Both movies massively overperforming. This is great news. Great news. So I'll definitely see both. I'm not sure when I'm going to squeeze Oppenheimer in, but sometime in the next week. All right. That's all channel member questions. We also have a super chat, though. Dead Planet dropping a 2. Thanks so much for that super chat, Dead Planet. Where is Starfield's marketing push too early? It's a great question. Keep in mind, they just had a huge presentation for Starfield just a little over a month ago. So I think that there's a real danger of oversaturating the visibility of the game. They'll probably wait and start, sometime in August, really pushing this thing. That's probably when you're going to get like hands-on previews and all of that sort of stuff sometime in August. Because like I said, keep in mind, we saw 40 minutes of this game just a little over a month ago. So that was already a massive push very recently. So I don't think they're at all concerned with how Starfield's going to perform commercially as long as it's good. Game looks like it's going to track absolutely massive. I'm expecting record numbers for engagement for an Xbox game. I think the biggest ever. Not exaggerating. I think Starfield will have the biggest engagement ever for any Xbox game ever released in history at launch. I'm not saying sales. Do you guys notice that? I'm not saying the best selling. I'm saying the best engagement. As long as Starfield's good, that's right. I think it'll be bigger than Halo 3 in engagement. I think it'll be bigger than Halo Infinite in engagement. I think it'll be bigger than Forza Horizon 5 in engagement. I think that player numbers will be the biggest in the entire history of Xbox as long as it's good. That's the real wild card here. The game needs to be good. But as long as it's good, I think it's going to absolutely obliterate in terms of player counts through Game Pass particularly. Sales will be super strong, particularly on the PC side. But I don't expect this to be the best-selling Xbox game ever released at launch, but I do expect the highest player counts of any Xbox game at launch. So they're probably pretty comfortable with that. And you don't want to just kind of burn people out by showing too much before launch. So expect it sometime in August, considering it's launching early September. Sometime in August, you'll get the hands-on previews from media. They'll do new trailers, all of that sort of stuff. So next month, I don't expect anything in the next couple weeks here in July. Just through August, they'll start really ramping it up. All right. All members have had questions answered. We have only had the one super chat, so let's get to your guys' free comments and questions. Robert Eli here. Man, Insomniac Games, 229 million for that studio. The steal of the century. It is the steal of the century. Really, and I am not joking. PS5 generation, Spider-Man Remastered, Miles Morales, Ratchet and Clank, Spider-Man 2, Wolverine next year, and we don't know what the Ratchet and Clank team is working on. Best studio in Sony right now. Thoughts on Insomniac? Insomniac truly was, you're not exaggerating, Robert, it was the steal of the century for Sony. Look at how much Insomniac has essentially carried PlayStation 5 this generation. They're not the only ones. We've had some other cool games, but there's no debate if you say what is the PlayStation first party that has had the most impact on PS5. it's Insomniac, and there's no debate. No other studio within Sony is releasing as many games as they are on PS5 and at the quality level as they are on PS5. There's just not. There's not a single Sony studio that's carrying PS5 the way Insomniac is. And they paid only $229 million for them. It is absolutely incredible, and what a good move it was by Sony, because could you imagine, here's the thing. Potentially, they could have still had the same output even if they were still a third party, maybe, right? It just depends on how the deals and everything would work out. But by having them in-house and guaranteeing that they're doing this sort of output on PlayStation and nothing on other platforms, again, if you remove all of those Insomniac games from PS5 in just a theoretical world, and you look at what's been released by PlayStation Studios outside of that, it doesn't look near as attractive as it does with those Insomniac games rolled in. So yeah, they've been huge. They've been huge for PlayStation. I'm a big fan of them. I have some contacts in Insomniac that I talk to, and they are all super nice. I think I'm probably the friendliest with Insomniac of every PlayStation studio. So I'm a big fan of them. Diego. Hi, Benji. Hope you're doing great. Spider-Man 2 is looking insane, and hype online is through the roof. What's your sales prediction for its debut? Keep up the good work. Yeah, that new story trailer looked amazing. I was really blown away with it, and this is coming from someone that wasn't blown away with the gameplay they showed at the PlayStation Showcase. I thought it looked good, but it wasn't like, I kind of felt the same as like what a lot of people did, where visually it did look so similar to like Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales. Not that that's the end of the world. Those are already great looking games, but I didn't really see much of a visual jump there. It looked super cool. It's Spider-Man. I freaking love Spider-Man. Throughout high school, this is before the MCU even blew up, I had a Spider-Man wallet. I've just always been a huge Spider-Man fan. So my hype is like literally at a 10 out of 10 no matter what for a new Insomniac Spider-Man game. But I thought the gameplay that they showed was like, it was cool, but I was hoping that like we'd see a bigger jump. This trailer to me looked like a significant jump over Miles Morales and Remastered, and that's probably because they're really in those polishing stages right now. You've had a lot of devs come out and say that those final 6 months or so, a lot of stuff can really come together in games as they really get that level of polish up, and the game continues to look better and better. I suspect you saw oh my god, my brain is not working right now. You saw god dang it. Oh my god. Anyways. Sorry, I'm trying to find the thing I'm looking for. Yeah, you saw James Stevenson. His brain, dude, my brain is literally not working. You saw James Stevenson come out and say that the game's going to look even better at launch than what it looked like in that story trailer. So it seems like they're really getting the polishing layers on this thing now. Story trailer looked incredible. One thing that has always been a surprise to me, I've always been confused around the whole mystery of who is Venom, because, guys, tiny spoiler alert in case you don't want to know who Venom is. It's essentially revealed in this trailer, so cover your ears until I give you the thumbs up. I'll give a thumbs up whenever I'm done talking about this, but it's not a spoiler because they literally tell you in the first game. I've been so confused about this whole who is Venom. All right, I'm going to say it right now. Cover your ears if you don't want to know. I will give you the thumbs up when I'm done talking about it. It's Harry Osborn. They tell you that at the end of Spider-Man 1. This is not a spoiler. They literally show him with the symbiote on him. So that's one thing I've been confused by, is like all these people like, who's Venom? We don't know who Venom. And I've been like, guys, we've known who Venom is for years. They literally tell you in the game. And then in this trailer, I saw some people being like, spoiler alert, they tell you Harry's Venom in the trailer. I'm like, guys, they already told you that. So that to me has been a little funny, seeing people. I can only assume a lot of people didn't get the true ending for Spider-Man, because that's the true ending. Like, they literally show Harry in a tank with the symbiote on him. But yeah, in other words, it's not a spoiler, guys. That's not a spoiler if you beat the first game. But thumbs up. I'm done talking about it. But yeah, looks awesome. Now, my sales predictions, I think it might beat God of War. Yeah, I think there's a real chance it beats God of War as the biggest PlayStation launch ever. Not a lock, but the tracking is far larger than God of War. God of War Ragnarok had amazing, pre-launch social media metrics, but they're not as big as Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 2 has the biggest social metrics of any PlayStation game ever. And Spider-Man 2018. Just Spider-Man in general, if you look at the social metrics that thing puts up, whether it's YouTube views, Twitter likes, all that sort of stuff, it's Spider-Man and nothing else is on the same level. But as we've discussed many times, social metrics are not everything, right? Social metrics are useful, but they don't always tell you exactly how something's going to perform. So I'm not saying it's a lock that it beats God of War Ragnarok as the biggest PlayStation launch ever, but it is absolutely in play. There's no question about it. Cameron Swear, Benji, who wins this fall, Mario Wonder or Spidey? Oh, this is actually a freaking good question. Also, who sells better in Japan first week? Final Fantasy 16 or Pikmin 4? Okay. This is very interesting questions. This is actually very tough between Mario Wonder and Spidey. Because Mario Wonder is going to do absolutely bonkers numbers in Japan. It's going to do extremely well in North America. Spidey is not going to have anywhere near the performance of Mario Wonder, I don't believe, in Japan. But I could see it being bigger than Mario Wonder in North America. Man, dude, Cameron, this is actually a great question. Both are going to be huge. Like I said, Mario Wonder has a big advantage in Japan. Spidey, not that I expect Spider-Man 2 to bomb in Japan. Spidey 1 did actually pretty good for a Western game in Japan. I expect Spidey 2 to do well for that sort of game in Japan, but it's not going to put up Mario Wonder type numbers. Spidey's probably going to do better in the US than Mario Wonder at launch. Europe is a wild card. I don't know. Both will be huge, though. I'll say that. There's no debate. Mario Wonder and Spidey 2 are both going to sell an absolute bonkers amount of units. If I had to pick one, who has the bigger holiday, right? This fall. We'll just say this holiday season. I'll say Spidey, but it's not with a ton of confidence because I'm just not sure how much Japan is really going to sway things, between the two. Because both will be huge in both Europe and North America. Both those are guaranteed. Both do extremely well. The wild card is just how big is that gap in Japan between them. It's going to be huge, but can that be made up in other markets? I don't know. I'll pick Spidey too, but it's not with a massive degree of confidence. It's not oh, no doubt about it. Mario Wonder could outperform it. It just depends. And then who sells better first week in Japan, Final Fantasy 16 or Pikmin 4? Well, I would have said Final Fantasy 16 no matter what. But I'm hearing Pikmin 4 is tracking very, very well in Japan. So maybe Pikmin 4 pulls the upset here. You never know. Switch is just so absolutely dominant in Japan that it's would it shock me to see Pikmin 4 have a bigger launch week? It actually wouldn't at this point. If you'd have asked me, back during the PS4 generation, even back whenever, Switch was still dominating towards the end of the PS4 generation, but I still would have been hey, Benji, will the next Final Fantasy or Pikmin launch bigger in Japan? I still would have said Final Fantasy no matter what. But seeing how PS5 software has been in Japan, you never know, man. Maybe Pikmin pulls that upset. Samuel Tobert, what is up, Samuel? Good friend of mine in the chat. Check out his work as always with Windows Central and all sorts of other places. Dude is the bomb. He's a friend of mine. He's awesome. Yo, Benji, that trailer for Marvel Spider-Man 2 was great. Time to call your shot. Do you think Venom will be playable? Ooh. If I had to predict, I do think you will get to play as Venom at some point in this game. Yeah, I'd be surprised if you don't. Now, guys, I have no inside information here on this because, I said earlier I talked to some people from Insomniac sometimes, but this is not something I know. So this is truly theorizing. This is no spoiler, nothing. I have no one from Insomniac has ever told me anything about playing as Venom. So my total guess, I will guess at some point you do get to play as Venom, but he's not going to be a mainline play him super often in the game. I could be wrong about that, but I could see some sort of Venom playable segments, kind of like how we had Mary Jane playable segments in Spider-Man 2018. Obviously, Venom would play very different. They wouldn't be stealth missions, but you know how they kind of sprinkled in a few, you get to play as her a few times throughout the game? I could see them doing that with Venom. Yeah, I could see them just like a couple specific scenarios you get to play as Venom for some sort of reason. I could see it, but I don't know. But I will predict that, yeah. It almost seems like it'd be too much of a missed opportunity because they know how much people love Venom to not include it. But maybe they save that because a lot of people have theorized, what if they do a Venom game? You know, maybe they save playing Venom for his own game. But I think they'll do it. I think they will do it. Tim Cott. Hi, Benji. Cheers from Poland. Cheers to you in Poland. With the PS5 Pro rumors and Microsoft seemingly reluctant about a Pro console, do you think they will be forced by Sony to have one as well so they don't stay behind? Okay, hey, let's run a poll. We haven't run a poll yet. I actually have two polls in mind because one of them has to do with another question I was asked. But first, let's do the PS5 Pro poll. Okay. I'll just say, are you interested in buying a PS5 Pro? We'll say yes. I'm a current... I'm trying to think of how to say it. Okay, we'll just say yes, I want one to make it simple. We'll say no, own a PS5. So you already own a PS5. Don't want Pro. We'll say no, and then maybe depends on price. And then the last one will say no, not a PlayStation gamer. So those are your options. Are you interested in buying a PS5 Pro? Yes, you want one. No, you already own a PS5 and you don't want to buy a Pro. Maybe, depends on the price tag of it. Or no, not a PlayStation gamer. In other words, you just don't play PlayStation in general, and so you're not going to buy one. All right, first poll. And then I'm actually going to run a poll in a minute, too, about a different thing. But we'll get that one rocking first. And, okay, so back to Tim Cott's question. Do I think it's a mistake that Microsoft doesn't make a Pro? I think there's potential for it to be a mistake, but it's one of those scenarios that we don't really know until we see what the PS5 Pro costs and how it sells, which is a bit of a weird scenario to be in because it's one of those things that's like sometimes you can see ahead of time, like when something's just a bad choice, like you can just see it. You can be like, okay, yeah, I don't know why you're doing that, right? I'm sure we've all seen companies do things where something's announced and we're like, yep, that's a mistake. Like, you know, the minute it's announced and then it plays out that way and you were right about it. This is one of those scenarios I feel like we will not know if it was a mistake for Microsoft to not make a Pro this gen until we see how the PS5 Pro performs. If they somehow come in at a good price tag and PS5 Pro somehow sells very, very well and you see games have a significant performance gap with the Series X, for example, then maybe at that time we'll look back and we'll be like, wow, that was a mistake. Xbox really should have had a Pro console this generation. But I don't think it's a guarantee that those scenarios play out. So I know this is a bit of a fence-sitting answer, but I feel like it's the most logical one because it's hard to say. We don't know what PS5 Pro is going to cost, and we also don't know how big the gap will be in performance, and we also don't know how much it's actually going to sell. So there's definitely a scenario that could play out where it is a bad decision for Microsoft to not compete on a Pro level with PlayStation, but there's also a scenario where it's not. This is one where it's hard for me to say. It's really hard for me to say. I don't have a great answer for you on this one. We'll just have to see how it plays out. All right, I think we had a super chat drop. Let me hit that super chat. We did. We had a couple super chats drop. Thanks so much, guys. We had Timmer72299 with a 2 super chat. Thank you so much, Timmer. Great to see you, buddy. QuakeCon expectations plus keep being awesome. When is QuakeCon? Coming up, right? When is QuakeCon? August 10th. Wow, so it's coming up soon. 10th through 13th. I'll say the same thing that I said, I think, last year when I was asked about QuakeCon. There has been rumors for a while that id is rebooting Quake. So I suspect if that's ready to be shown, maybe they announce the Quake reboot at QuakeCon. You never know. That's been rumored ever since they finished Doom Eternal. There's been some rumors floating around that their next game is not another Doom title, but an actual reboot of Quake, which I am massively in favor of. Just give it a shot. I've talked about this before. Give it a one-chance shot. You know, if a Quake reboot does not perform well, then okay, we pivot back to Doom or whatever else you want to make. But if you manage to fully reboot Quake and have it be successful in the way that the Doom reboot was, well, now you have two very healthy franchises for id to work on whenever they want to keep in rotation. They've already revitalized Doom. If they can revitalize Quake, that just gives them more franchise potential, more games that they can play with. So if it is true, these rumors that they're rebooting Quake, maybe they're ready to announce it, and that would be a very cool place to announce it. But we'll see. We'll see, Timmer. But I'll stick with that same prediction I had last year. If it's ready to be shown, I think that they will announce the Quake reboot. But again, this is just assuming that's even happening and it's ready to be shown. But it would be very, very cool if they did. Outside of that, I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like there's going to be any Doom sort of announcements, so I wouldn't expect anything like that. I think it has basically outright said or hinted that they're not working on Doom right now. All the DLC for Eternal already was released, so I'm not expecting any sort of major Doom announcements. It really, if there's anything big, it might be that Quake reboot. And then Highlander001 with a 10 super chat. Thank you so much, Highlander. Great to see you, buddy. Always so generous with the super chats. Hey, Benji. I hope you had a good week. Doing so much better, guys. I'm really on the upswing. Really on the upswing. We're getting there. I'm very happy to say that. In my opinion, I think Jim Ryan got a worse deal for Call of Duty than what was made. I know 2027 was a short time, but they could have renegotiated the contract in 2027. Do you mean him signing a 10-year deal was worse than if he would have done a short one and then renegotiated? I think it was just very important to them to make sure that they locked down Call of Duty guaranteed for basically the rest of this generation and into the early next cycle. Because right now it's 2023, the agreement's for 10 years, and supposedly the rumblings are that next gen is targeting 2028. So that would probably guarantee them at least one Call of Duty at launch on the new platform, the PS6. So it just depends. I think locking down Call of Duty for as long as physically possible was the best move for Jim Ryan. Now, I suspect when this 10-year contract's over, they still won't pull Call of Duty. You see some people being like, the minute that deal's up, you know, Microsoft's going to just instantly pull Call of Duty. I still am just of the opinion that it makes no financial sense to pull Call of Duty off PlayStation. Now, I think there's a very strong argument to making a lot of other Activision Blizzard games exclusive. So I won't be shocked at all if you see lots of Activision Blizzard games in the future go exclusive to Xbox. But Call of Duty specifically, I would absolutely, even when this 10 years is over, I still wouldn't pull it off PlayStation. They're going to make so much money off of selling that game on PlayStation and all of the DLC on PlayStation. Just continue to support that thing, just like they do with Minecraft. You know, there's no real reason to pull Minecraft off of PlayStation. I wouldn't do that either. So, we'll see. I think Jim was just trying to get as many years as possible to guarantee. I don't think Jim truly believes they're going to pull Call of Duty off PlayStation either. I don't think most people in the industry think they're going to do that. So I think it's more of just a safety net just to be sure. But we'll see. In the long term, I personally think it was a good idea to just get as many years as possible out of that thing just to guarantee it. But like I said, I still don't think they're going to pull it even when this 10 years over. They'll just renegotiate another deal. All right. Super chats are cleared. All members have had questions answered, so we're still in the free questions. Okay, let's look at the poll right now. Right now, the poll that I asked you guys about for the PS5 Pro, the leading result right now is 42%. Yes, I want one. So the majority right now of the most, voted is that you guys do want a Pro. I'm in the same boat as you. I will absolutely buy a PS5 Pro. 25% of you say you don't want one, but you already own a PS5. So you're already in their ecosystem anyways, and you don't really want to upgrade. 17% of you say maybe depends on the price tag, and only 15% of you say no, you are not a PlayStation gamer, so you just have no interest in general on one. So pretty interesting results. I honestly didn't expect that you guys that the number one option would be that you guys want one, but I'm with you. I want one. I will absolutely buy a Pro console. And to be honest, I'm a weirdo in that it doesn't actually matter the price. I don't make very much money, but my one major hobby is gaming. So, I mean, if this thing gets announced at like $600, I'm still going to absolutely buy it. But I don't expect most people to. All right, and then I'm going to run another poll because I found that question super interesting earlier. And that was, which sells more this holiday? Mario Wonder or Spidey 2? I found that to be a super fascinating question. All right, dropping that poll in the chat. Which sells more this holiday? Mario Wonder or Spider-Man 2? Super interesting question, man. That is a great, great, great question. Because they're both going to sell a ton. Infinity Doc can't stay for long. Have an interview in 15 or 20 minutes. Well, Infinity Doc, I hope you absolutely nailed your interview. You're gone by this point in time, but if you catch up on this stream later, Infinity Doc, I hope you absolutely nailed that interview. I hope you get the job, and if it's for a job, hope you get that job, and boom, baby, boom. Hope you nail it, buddy. I'm sure you will. Guillermo Lima, hello, Benji. Hope you're doing great. I'm doing great, Guillermo. Guillermo, I hope you're doing great as well. Chris McDonald, Benji, I'm so glad you're here. I don't have a Twitter account, so my only source for my bench fix is YouTube. Really hating the API changes Elon made. Well, Chris McDonald, it's great to see you, man. I sometimes forget that there's some people that only follow me here on YouTube. It's not a small, it can't be a large number because my Twitter is so much bigger. So I always assume that probably 95% of my YouTube audience also follows me on Twitter, but there's definitely going to be some people that the only exposure they have to me is here. And I sometimes forget about that. Like I said, I come in always assuming everyone here also follows me on Twitter. So I feel a bit bad for the people that enjoy my content. If you only get a chance to see me once a week, there's a little bit there where I was starting to output more content for a couple weeks, where I started to make some more, pre-made videos and not just the streams, and those performed very well for me for my sort of engagement levels. And I definitely want to get back to doing that again. It's just been, for a while I didn't even stream because my mental health was so bad. So Chris McDonald, ideally, I'll start getting back to outputting more content. In regards to how Elon has ran Twitter, I agree. I absolutely hate it. Listen, if someone watching the stream absolutely loves Elon, that's completely fine. You guys have never heard me come out and say, I have my issues with Elon Musk. I just think he runs Twitter terribly. Doesn't mean I think he runs everything terribly. I'm actually a big fan of SpaceX, for example. Really, really love the push that they're doing towards space over at SpaceX. It's just I wish he would focus on that and not run Twitter because I think he's done a very, very bad job. Listen, we all have strengths and weaknesses in life, right? There's some stuff I'm very good at, and then there's some stuff I'm very, very bad at. Elon Musk, I think, is very, very good at running Tesla. I think he's very, very good at running SpaceX. I think he's really, really bad at running a social media company. I just don't think it's a strength of his. So I agree with you, Chris. I think overall, Twitter has gotten far worse since Elon took over it. But I'll tell you what, I experimented with Threads. I tried it out to see how it would go. And in my opinion, Twitter is still just way better than Threads. So I actually haven't even really been posting on Threads much because maybe at some point in time they're going to really get threads working super, super well. But to me at the moment, it's just not the same as Twitter, for better or worse. And Twitter is still what I like. I actually signed up for a month of Blue, which, oh my God, the end of the world. I thought people would be super mad at me about it, but I actually haven't had anyone complain about it. And I signed up for Blue mostly because when it first came out that they were doing payouts on Twitter, I was like, all right, let's see if this is real. This is before it came out that it was like a select handful of people that they picked. This was like when the news was first breaking. You saw people posting, Twitter paid me out, Twitter paid me out. So I was like, all right, I'm going to sign up for Blue for a few months and see if this thing is real as a test case scenario. And I'll say that Blue is kind of useful. It's actually not the end of the world. I've already canceled my next month of Twitter Blue, but I may actually keep it. There's some interesting stuff there. Like the editing tweets is pretty nice. The fact that like whenever you send a tweet, it doesn't instantly send. It gives you like a minute to like read over it again. Like it gives you some time. I definitely do see less ads, I think. So it's pretty interesting actually. Like I haven't decided if I'm going to keep Blue or not. I think for your average Twitter user, Blue is really not useful. Like if you're just your average Twitter guy, I think it's probably not that useful. If you are a content creator, if you're someone that's going out there trying to get exposure on Twitter, trying to make content, I think it's actually maybe a bit useful, but we'll see. I'm going to mess with it over time. Jose, a Friday stream. Nice. Yeah, a lot of times I don't do the Friday streams because they do seem to be a bit lower on viewership, which makes sense. People are busy on Fridays. They're going out with friends. They're going to see Barbenheimer, etc., etc. But that's just when I could squeeze it in this week. But I usually try and do it during a regular weekday when people just don't have as much going on. But, Fridays when I could get it in this week. Guillermo Lima, Benji, do you think Xbox will follow Sony with a Pro version? We talked about this. Because this time, technically, they already have two main SKUs. Yeah, we talked about this. I don't think they're going to, because Phil has essentially said they're not going to make a Pro. And whether that's a good choice or not, we just won't know until we see how PS5 Pro performs. Chris McDonald, what a nice comment. I was driving up north last Thursday and my non-gamer girlfriend was co-piloting. She saw you on the top of my YouTube feed, clicked the video, and absolutely loved the live stream. Oh man, what kind words. That is super awesome, dude. I very, very much appreciate that. Shout out to you and your girlfriend, Chris. I'm glad that she enjoyed the stream, even as a non-gamer. I love doing these streams. I tell you guys that all the time. They're my favorite thing I do. I enjoy this more than Twitter. Twitter can be a battleground. My YouTube feeds or streams are mostly positive vibes, right? Every once in a while we get a troll in here or someone being mean, but I feel like we have a really great community in the YouTube live chats. So that's awesome. Great to hear that. Thank you for that kind word, Chris. And guys, now you see why I was struggling so much with my choice. Look at this poll right now. Which sells more this holiday season? Mario Wonder, 50%. Spider-Man 2, 50%. It is a tough one, is it not? I am not shocked at all to see how split you guys are. Now it's 51% Mario Wonder, 49% Spider-Man 2. This is a real coin flip, man. It is. This is a tough one to predict. I am not shocked at all to see you guys as split as I was. I don't know. This could really go either way, man. I am not shocked at all to see those poll results. This is a tough one. Whenever I can't remember who that was it Guillermo? Whenever that person asked me that, I was like caught off guard. I was like, dang, dude, this is tough. This is really freaking tough. I don't know. I really don't know. Jeremy G, 8K for the 8 people with Jeremy G says 8K for the 8 people with 8K TVs. Yeah, that's so accurate. 8K is such a small market share right now, and I don't expect that to change, by the way. This is not a scenario like it was with 4K, where whenever 4K came on the market, at first it was a very low adoption rate, but you just knew eventually 4K would become the norm. I don't know that 8K is ever going to become the norm. I think the only area that 8K is going to become the standard is going to be for very large screen TVs, 85 inches, 95 inches, those big TVs. those ones you'll be able to tell, like, you know, a resolution difference. But on like your standard, you know, 55, 65s, a lot of the size TVs people put in their living room, I don't think you're going to see hardly, from a normal viewing distance, I doubt you'll see any difference between 4K and 8K. But so the only area I think a lot of people will really spend for 8K is going to be very large screens. Like I said, 85, 95-inch TVs. I can tell you I just recently upgraded to a 75-inch TV like 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago now. And I'll tell you what, I can see the difference in resolution on this thing much more than I could on my 65-inch. I had a 65-inch TV for years, and it was pretty hard for me to tell when something wasn't native 4K. 1080p is a different story, but like if a game's like 1440p checkerboarded to 4K or whatever, I almost couldn't tell a difference on my 65-inch between them. I'll tell you, on my 75, I can very clearly tell when a game's not native 4K. Like, I can spot it almost instantly on my 75-inch. So those huge TVs, the 85s, the 95s, as those start to become more common, 8K will probably be not important, but like something people want in those very large screen TVs. But I can't see it for anything less than that. Anything less than the giant screens. Dead Planet, didn't Sony drop a Pro console before Xbox last time? Yes, the Pro came out a year before the Xbox One X. Yep. Joel says, how you get this information? Well, Joel, I'm not sure. It depends what kind of info you mean. If you mean how do I get like the sales stuff that I talk about, it's primarily through just public charts. They're posted all over the place. So, you know, I'll look at Steam charts. I'll look at, you know, the Japanese charts. I'll look at NPD data when it comes out. Well, now Circana. I'll look at the charts that come out of the UK and that come out of Europe. So all of that's public information. Now, it's not public in that like Circana and NPD literally post the units, but you can see some useful data like rankings, consoles, etc. like that. So if you mean sales data, primarily through public charts, though sometimes devs tell me off the record how their games are performing. I won't say which ones, but there's a lot of devs that follow me that also find sales super interesting. And I'm not going to say it's something that happens every day, but sometimes devs will DM me and they'll say, hey, dude, our game's doing really, really well. You know, we're hearing it's selling blah, blah, blah in this market. So sometimes it's that. Sometimes I'll get off the record information like that. If you mean info outside of sales, most of it again is through public reporting, and again sometimes people in the industry telling me stuff off the record. I don't consider myself a super insider guy, but anytime you have over 70,000 followers on Twitter and a lot of them are from the game industry, you're gonna hear stuff. So, but I don't consider myself an insider. Like, I don't go around trying to dig up info. That's why you guys see me rarely talk about inside information. Most of it's just stuff people tell me off the record and I don't ever talk about it. Let me make sure there's no super chats. I don't think there is. We had a second super chat. Highlander with a 5. Microsoft will have ABK, and with that they will have MGL. I think you mean MLG. Do you think we will see a heavy Xbox presence there? Think they will make any changes? I'm not 100% sure. Do you mean MLG or I'm not sure what MGL is. I think you mean MLG, though. Let me know. Highlander. Let me know. Michael Yu says, Twitter is toxic, Benji. I don't know how you deal with Twitter. I mute a lot of people on Twitter. I hate to say it, but I mute lots of them. Lots and lots and lots of people. I think the only way you can use Twitter super well is by being really aggressive with the mute button. So that's the main way. Like, I don't see a lot of the really toxic stuff because they're coming from people I've already muted on the platform. So I don't, listen, if you're coming on my tweets just constantly console warring, I've said this before, you're just going to get muted and then I don't ever see it again. So if you don't want to get muted by me, maybe you don't care. And if not, that's no problem, right? I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm just saying, if you don't want to get muted by me, don't come on my feed console warring all the time because you're going to get muted. I won't block you for it, but I'll just mute you. So just don't do that. Doesn't mean you can't be like, you know, I don't think this game looks that good or something, you know, something. I'm not going to mute you for that. But if like literally every time I post, like with the PlayStation, I made a tweet about how I think Spider-Man 2 looked awesome. There was just tons of Xbox fanboys jumping on there. Game looks terrible. Game looks so bad. Just mute, 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 mute. So that's how you deal with it. And then Highlander said, I mean MLG. Okay, so will we see a big presence with MLG? Probably not, because Activision's really pulling back on their esports stuff, which is a bummer for me in particular, because I love Overwatch League. I've been a huge fan of Overwatch League. Literally since the inception. I've been watching it since the first season, but that's because I'm a massive Overwatch fan. But it sounds like Activision's really pulling back on the amount of esports they do. Sounds like Overwatch League's probably going to end this season. It's also sounding like the Call of Duty League is probably going to end as well. Now, they're still going to do esports, but it sounds like they're just pivoting away from the league format, essentially, which is going to probably really reduce the amount of esports stuff that they're doing. So you're still going to have Call of Duty esports. You're still going to have Overwatch esports, but they're not going to be as big and grand and league formatted as they are now. They're going to be probably more like smaller tournament-based stuff. So I don't actually think you see a heavy push for Xbox with MLG, because esports in general is really facing challenges in the industry. There was a couple years ago where everyone thought esports was the future and millions and millions and millions of dollars was being poured into it, and that has not panned out. There's only really a few successful esports, and they're few and far between. So I actually don't think so, Highlander. I know they'll own MLG now, but I just don't think you'll see Microsoft do a whole lot with it. All right, super chats are cleared. How long have we been going? We still got time. I'm going to still hit questions for a little while, guys. Michael Yu says, I've already seen plenty of Starfield ads on Twitch. I think YouTube had a bunch too, but yeah, I do expect a full media blitz soon. Also, pre-orders for Starfield on Steam right now are very strong. Yeah, it's going to sell more on PC than it's going to sell on Xbox. I feel very confident about that. In terms of like the actual sales split, there's not a doubt in my mind that Starfield probably sells more on PC than Xbox. But that might not be true on engagement. Like, because so many, Phil Spencer's talked about this. Part of the reason they're having issues growing Game Pass on console is because so many people on console are already subbed to Game Pass. That's why like their biggest growth vector right now for Game Pass is through PC. Because console, it's like they kind of already have the bulk of Xbox owners already on board with Game Pass. So total player split, who knows? But I do suspect it will sell, like actual raw sales, sell more on PC because of Steam. Dead Planet, thanks for the answer, Benj. Of course, dude. I try to hit as many questions as I possibly can. What's up, Portal Player? Do you think, and then Portal Player's asking, do you think ABK will help Xbox gain sales? I've talked about this before. Do I think that ABK will, like just the simple answer to your question, do I think it will have a sales impact? The answer to that question is yes. Because I do suspect, despite kind of the posturing that's kind of happening, I expect almost everything from ABK is going to become Xbox exclusive. That's just the reality, guys. I think almost all the Blizzard games coming up, I think almost all of the whatever Activision makes that's not Call of Duty, I think essentially all of that's going to go exclusive. I really do. Phil never signed a contract stating that all Blizzard games will remain multi-platform. The only contract that's signed is Call of Duty. And I suspect there is a reason for that, because I suspect that is the only game that Microsoft plans, future games, plans on being multi-platform. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to stop supporting Diablo 4. I expect Diablo 4, every expansion that gets released is going to be on PlayStation. I suspect every single, season of Overwatch 2 is still going to be on PlayStation. I'm talking future games. We know that Blizzard right now is making some sort of survival new IP. It's like a survival game. I'll be honest, I really don't think that's going to be on PlayStation. Right now, I'm sure the plan is, but I suspect just like what they did with Redfall and just like they did with Starfield, I suspect once they are acquired, Microsoft's going to go to Blizzard and they're going to say, we're not making a PlayStation version of that game anymore. So as those games, more and more and more games start to come out that are Xbox exclusive, yeah, I do think that will have some sales impact. The thing that I have always said, though, I don't think Call of Duty going on Game Pass is the console sales mover that maybe some people think it is. And this is actually exactly where the judge came to. I mean, the judge for the FTC case are basically on the same page here, in that there's not really, I don't think, a strong degree of evidence that even with this remaining multi-platform, that suddenly everyone's selling their PlayStations and they're now buying Xbox just because Call of Duty's on Game Pass. I think most of the PlayStation audience that is playing Call of Duty are still just going to buy Call of Duty every year on their PlayStation. That's what I suspect. I suspect the vast majority. I don't understand why, if you were a PlayStation-only gamer, right? We're saying you only play PlayStation. I don't understand why you would look at Xbox now having Call of Duty in Game Pass and being like, oh, I'm now going to abandon Call of Duty on PlayStation, buy an Xbox, sign up for Game Pass just so I can play it through there. That to me doesn't make much sense. I suspect, not that there's going to be no people that do that. There's going to be some, but I don't think it's this ginormous number. I think most people that are playing Call of Duty on PlayStation are just going to buy it on PlayStation, and that stays the exact same. So will there be a sales impact from ABK? Yes. Will Call of Duty going into Game Pass specifically massively change market console share? In my opinion, no. I do think they'll see a big boost of Game Pass subs with Call of Duty, but I don't think a lot of that will be people just abandoning the PlayStation to play it on Xbox. Ayuze, not sure how to say that. The limited edition Spider-Man 2 console, faceplates, and controller is so smart by Sony. Yes, they should have been doing this for every game. I do not understand why they weren't. We all know a slim new model is coming soon. What better way to really boost the last bit of console sales? Sony always does a limited edition console to close out the original version of a console right before mid-gen refresh. I'm just curious if the slim will also get limited for Spidey. Yeah, I agree. The faceplates look great. The controller, in my opinion, looks great. It's not going to be for everyone. I've seen some people really not like the way that the faceplates or controller look, and I get that. Anything stylized is going to be, a really personal taste thing. I think they look super cool. I don't know why they didn't do this for God of War Ragnarok. I don't know why they didn't do this for The Last of Us Part 1. I don't know why, I would be, if I was them, I'd be doing this for every mainline flagship exclusive. I would offer the faceplates and the controller for every big one. I mean, if it's like a really small game, okay, and maybe you don't do it for that. But if it's a big flagship exclusive, and we know that these faceplates are easily interchangeable, I don't know why you wouldn't do it for every one. I think there might have been a super chat. There was. Highlander001 with a 5 super chat. GameStop are raising the prices of the older Call of Duty with Microsoft updating the older Call of Duty servers. Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I worked for GameStop for many years, so that does not surprise me. I worked at GameStop for 6 years in their management chain. I love it. Wish the PlayStation players could enjoy them. Yeah, it is super cool to see that the older Call of Duty servers are coming back. Clearly, that's preparing for these games probably to be in Game Pass. We had that debate, I think it was last stream, and we were talking about, I wonder if the marketing deal means like only with Sony, like does it mean that no Call of Duty can go on Game Pass, or does it only mean the games under that current contract can't come into Game Pass? I have a feeling that seeing all this being updated probably means specifically that it is just the games under that contract. So probably the old classic Call of Duties can jump straight into Game Pass once it's done. And it is cool. It's cool to see these games get new life. So yeah, super cool. Super cool. I don't know if the PlayStation servers will ever be updated or not. Who knows? And thanks for that super chat, man. Michael Yu says, I say Mario because of the install base / Nintendo is coming off of the huge success of the movie. It very well could. It could be Spider-Man 2 or it could be Mario Wonder. It is like such a coin flip to me. Diego, Spider-Man 2 plus new PS5 model will be a killer in the holiday. Yeah, PlayStation 5 will, in my opinion, without question, be the best-selling platform this holiday. Even with ABK probably closing, even with Starfield, to me personally, just forecasting out ahead, The combo of a new PS5 model, which is heavily rumored, plus you have Spider-Man 2. Switch is on its way out, slowly but surely. You know, it is slowing down, slowly but surely. Still performing amazing for a console this late in its cycle, but it is slowing. And I just don't think Xbox will have enough momentum, even with Starfield, to pass PS5. It should be PS5 as the best seller this holiday, yeah, for sure. I'll be very surprised if it's not. Joel says, yes, I'm glad I waited. Sam Walton says, absolutely getting it. This is the Pro. Portal player depends on the price and specs. Yep. Frozen Wing, they said Series X was the Pro. Yeah, basically. It's basically what Microsoft said. Dano. Interesting. I think a follow-up question to whether we want a Pro version is, why do people want one? All right, well, let's run the poll. Let's run the poll. Good question. Let's do it, Dano. Start a poll. All right. What is the most interesting thing about PS5 Pro out of the info that we have? We'll say more games at 4K 60 FPS. We'll say improved ray tracing. We'll say 8K performance mode. Spoiler alert, I think that probably gets the least amount of votes. And those were like really the main things, right? Those were the main new things. Is there something I'm forgetting? I want to say that those were the main things. Yeah, that's really the main stuff. So we'll say more games at true 4K. We'll put true in there. All right. So what is the most interesting thing about PS5 Pro? More games at true 4K 60 FPS, improved ray tracing, or 8K performance mode. There we go. See what you guys think. Joseki says, I have 1,030 muted people on Twitter as of today. I'm probably right in the same ballpark as you, Joseki. I'd have to look at it, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's over 1,000 as well. It's the only way to make Twitter usable. Portal Player says, yes, it is a mistake if there's not an Xbox Pro and PlayStation does. It could. It very well could. For me, it just depends on how the PS5 Pro performs. Anthony M. Johnson, I don't think Xbox is making a Pro version because it would mean having to develop for the S, X, and a Pro. Too much work. PlayStation will have the base version and the Pro. Yeah, that is one advantage for Sony, is that in terms of advantage of making a Pro, is that, yeah, it's not, it's essentially just going to be, not even to the degree of gap between the S and X, but it's going to be, yeah, just 2 SKUs. Whereas Xbox, if they do have a Pro, they have 3 SKUs to support, so... I think that could be a factor. I also think that Microsoft believes they can't make a Pro that's cost effective, but maybe Sony's found a way to do it. Portal Player says $600 plus would be pushing it. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. If this thing was $600, I would buy it, but I don't suspect most of the market would. That it would be a true like niche product. They probably really need to have the regular PS5 drop in price and have the Pro replace the current price tag if they're going to do this. If they do launch it at $600 plus, I think it will be niche. I don't think it will sell that well. There will be hardcores like me that buy it, but I don't think that it will be mass market device at all. All right. Joseki says, I think a lot of people are sleeping on how big of an effect Mario Movie will have on Mario Wonder sales. Plus, the game looks stellar after the fatigue settled with the new series. Yeah, it does look great. It's going to be huge. There's no doubt Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2 are both going to just dominate this holiday. They're going to be massive games. And Starfield. Like, I don't want to count Starfield out of this equation either. Starfield's going to be massive. I just think it won't sell at the level of those two games because of Game Pass. You know, if there was no Game Pass in this conversation, we'd have to be talking about Starfield alongside these games as well. Whenever you look at how the big Bethesda RPGs sell, when you look at how Skyrim sells, when you look at how Fallout 4 sells. If there was no Game Pass equivalent here, like, yeah, we would have to be debating if Starfield's going to sell at the level of these two games. But Game Pass is going to heavily cannibalize that game's sales. So its player numbers will be fantastic, but I don't expect Starfield to sell as much as, you know, Mario and Spider-Man are going to. All right. Sin says, Benji-Sales, do you think Microsoft will get really slick with that content parity for Call of Duty by making the content very pro Xbox IP centric, Gears skins, Doom Guy skins, Forza themed maps, etc.? Well, here's the thing. I would think that, except for I think Microsoft's done a pretty poor job of cross synergy between their games. Why is there no Doom Guys like Halo armor? That is, to me, makes no sense. Why has Halo Infinite not had an event where it's Doom themed? Who knows? They own Doom. It would do great, I'm telling you right now, if they had like a season where the battle pass involved Doom stuff. Who knows? You know, occasionally they do stuff like this. Like Sea of Thieves, I think, has probably had the most cross synergy. But I actually think this is one area where Microsoft's like super dropping the ball. All of their service games should have cross synergy, like in a big way. I don't know why you wouldn't. But, so who knows? It would be cool. Like if they had Call of Duty stuff with Gears skins, Doom skins. Oh, sure, that would be dope. But Microsoft has done, in my opinion, not that great of a job of cross synergy content. So we'll have to see. IU say, how long do you guys think it will be before Microsoft goes for Take-Two? I don't think they ever will. Sony simply can't afford Take-Two. I think they should go for it, but financially they just can't swing that purchase. I've said before, I don't think Microsoft will ever go after any of the other big players again after what happened with Activision. I don't think they'll go for Take-Two. I don't think they'll go for EA, because I truly believe that they would fail. I really think so. I've seen some people argue, well, now that they've proven they can get Activision Blizzard through, now they know they can get EA and Take-Two. I don't agree with that actually at all. I think they barely scraped Activision through, and that as hard as it was to get this through, it would be even harder now to get EA and Take-Two. I think that's over. I don't think there's any chance they ever go for that. Now, I do think Microsoft will continue to make acquisitions, but I suspect those will be independently owned developers. I don't think you ever see them go for a major publisher again. Maybe a small publisher. Maybe you'd see them go after somebody like a, I'm not predicting this, but like Focus Interactive, right? Aren't they a publisher? You know, I don't think they would go for them, but maybe down the line you'd see something small like that. Take-Two and EA, though, I think those are off the table. I think it would instantly fail. But I could be wrong. I am not a law expert, but I think they barely got Activision through, man. Barely. So I don't see how they would get more. Chris McDonald, thoughts on Blizzard games coming to Steam, especially since the launcher won't be required. I'm assuming my audio is still good. Yeah, I haven't checked it in forever. I was like, thoughts on Blizzard games coming to Steam, especially since the launcher won't be required, just in-game login. People are so quick to claim it's an act of desperation, but I disagree with that. Yeah, I don't think it's an act of desperation at all. You know, Overwatch 2 has definitely slowed down since launch, but like this idea, it's a dead game. I've said it a lot. That's just like not true. Let's see something. Now it is slipping, but for a long time, I was saying Overwatch 2 is dead. And like it was still like always in the top 10 most played games on Xbox. Now I know it's not now, but it's still 4, 8, 12, 13, 14. It's still in the top 15. It's only like it's right behind Rocket League. Guys, right now more people are playing Overwatch 2 on Xbox than Destiny 2. And you hear all the time how Destiny 2 is such a successful service game. And don't get me wrong, it absolutely is. But right now on Xbox, there are more people playing Overwatch than are playing Destiny. Like, I don't know how that became a talking point, that Overwatch 2 is like this dead game no one plays. It's still very popular. It has more people playing it than Forza Horizon 5, more people playing it than Destiny 2, more people playing it than Madden 23 in the US. Like, this is still a very popular game, guys. It's not a dead game at all. Now, is it starting to slip? Yeah, they even noted that in their most recent earnings, because like I said, for a long time, it was always top 10. Now it's still top 15, which is still a strong performance, but you see it is slowly slipping. They really need to really be focusing on getting like really great seasonal content out for Overwatch 2. I survived the horrific days of Overwatch 1 content. So to me, what I'm getting in Overwatch 2 is already like so much better than what I got in Overwatch 1, but it's still not quite enough to keep super high engagement. They need to make these seasons extremely strong, but it's definitely not desperation. Overwatch is still a very popular game. That's a myth that is dead. Like I said, think about how big Destiny is, and there's more people playing Overwatch than Destiny on Xbox. I'm only noting Xbox because that's the only platform we have charts for. You can't see PC. We will soon once Overwatch is on Steam. But right now you can't. You can't compare them, and you can't compare them on PlayStation. But it ain't a dead game at all, no. That is a myth. You think Sony acquires anyone this year? Yes, I do. Well, this year, the year is getting short. We're now in July. So I would say maybe. If the question is, will Sony make an acquisition in the next 12 months? I would say absolutely. If we're talking calendar year, I don't know, just because we're already at the end of July. So we're getting towards the end of the year. They still absolutely could, but it's not a lock for the calendar. But I do think it's pretty much a lock for the next 12 months. I'd be surprised if they make 0 acquisitions in the next 12 months. Jose, will Wonder sell more than Zelda Tears of the Kingdom in the first week? Absolutely not. No way. It'll do really well, but it ain't going to sell more than Zelda. The poll right now, I asked you guys, what is the... Oh, you guys are funny. I asked you guys, what is the most interesting thing about PS5 Pro? This is incredible. 77% of you say more games at true 4K 60 FPS. Not surprised at all on that. I think that's the main thing that people want out of it. That's not the funny part. We're getting to the funny part. 23% of you said improved ray tracing, which I do think is a very nice thing. I don't think it's like the most important thing. I think the true 4K 60 for sure, but improved ray tracing is nice as well. And for the 8K performance mode, it has 0%. That is funny. You guys are funny. And you guys are right. Yeah, the main pull of this thing is going to be if you can just get like almost all the games at locked 4K 60. That'll be pretty huge. All right, we're going to go for 10 minutes and then I'm done. 10 minutes and then I'm out. Downward incline. I'll buy an Xbox if Microsoft brings back Tony Hawk Pro Skater. They've got to. In the off chance that someone from Xbox watches this stream, and I've been told from people at Xbox that they do watch my stream sometimes, they have got to bring back Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Guys, like I said, in the slim chance one of you is watching this video right now, bring back Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 HD sold extremely well. Either do Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 HD or a brand new Tony Hawk game. Give it the love. Make it a super quality game. If you're going to buy Activision Blizzard, y'all better make some more Tony Hawk. Come on. Come on now. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2 HD was so good. So good. And dude, it really felt like it was revitalizing that franchise. They outright said sales were higher than they expected. It was, I believe, the biggest launch ever for a Tony Hawk game. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, this was a few years ago now, so I could be misremembering. But I think they said it was actually the fastest selling Tony Hawk game ever. How do you do that and then you just stop? You guys better bring back Tony Hawk. You better do it. You're crazy if you don't. I'm not saying you got to give the thing a $200 million budget, but you better keep it up, man. You're crazy if you don't.
Michael Yu says, agree that PlayStation Call of Duty gamers will stay on PlayStation. Absolutely. Most of them are going to. There might be a few that switch over, but the main pull for like sales, like we're talking about like pulling people to buy Xboxes, it's not going to be putting Call of Duty on Game Pass. I'm telling you that right now. It's going to be putting these new games on Game Pass, and these new games is exclusive. That will be a bigger, we're just talking console mover. That will have a bigger console moving impact than Call of Duty on Game Pass, just because Call of Duty's already on PlayStation. So, LeChucky, welcome back, Benji. It's rare I get to enjoy one of these live. It's good to be back. I love doing these streams. I'm very glad I'm back in rotation and not so depressed I can't even stream anymore. Well, it's been actually more anxiety than depression lately, but you know, it's all a hot mess. Yo, what up, Split89? Great to see you, buddy. I didn't see you in the stream earlier. Great to see you. Split89, great friend of mine. Check out his work on Gaming Trend. He does a ton of great work over at Gaming Trend, helps mod the channel, and is just overall a great person. Only big issue with the older Call of Duty is the servers are still filled with hackers. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it's hackers like crazy. Yeah, Kellegrim. Didn't they release a remake of Pro Skater 1 plus 2 back in 2020? Yep, and it sold very well. Very well. But then they just stopped. It was weird. They did that, and then they just stopped. So, hopefully there's more coming. Peter420 says, I don't have anyone blocked / muted on Twitter. Anything someone says that's bad or toxic, I just scroll past and ignore. Well, Peter, listen, I don't mean this in a bad way. So this is, listen, trust me. I don't mean this in a bad way. It is a lot harder to have that opinion when you have a lot higher follower count. I'm just going to say that right now. So not that I'm like super famous or anything, but dude, the amount of engagement I get every day on Twitter, it's not like, oh, you know, I get like 1 or 2 toxic comments per day. That's annoying. Dude, it's like dozens and dozens every day, 7 days a week. Like if every time I refresh my Twitter feed, like any time I pull up my Twitter feed and I just do the old refresh on it, I mean, it's just tons and tons and tons and tons of notifications nonstop. And at any time I could refresh my Twitter at any point in time, any minute of the day, any hour of the week, and it's just filled with new impressions and replies and all that sort of stuff. And bro, it is a lot, okay? So I don't want to have just tons of nonstop notifications about console warring on my feed, because that's what it would be. If I didn't mute some of these people, it would be, per week, we're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments of this stuff. So listen, as you get higher up in the follower, and again, I'm not saying I'm famous, but as you get more and more and more followers, that's more and more and more and more and more of the stuff you got to read. You have to. Every single person I know with a big following mutes tons of people. Every single one I know. You have to. Otherwise, it's just overwhelming. All right, where are we at? Downward Incline says, I can care less about ray tracing. Give me 4K 60 FPS locked. Absolutely. I mean, I actually do care about ray tracing because it's actually going to make it somewhat easier for devs. Like, once we actually get to the point where everything can be like fully path traced, which I know is a while away. From my understanding, I'm not a dev, but from what I've heard from devs, like just not like privately telling me this, but from like public statements, is it'll actually make developing games easier, because you don't have to go through and manually do all of the lighting for the game. Once it's fully path traced, it can just, be done. Again, I am not a dev. This isn't me telling you the technical aspects of why it's superior, but I have heard devs say that like once we eventually get to that point, it will actually make developing games easier. So anything that will make developing games easier is a huge net win in my opinion. So hopefully that really pans out. Spagdretti here with a 5 super chat. Hey Benji, love the work you do. How cool is it that Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft have a huge release this holiday season? Keep up the good work. Well, Spagdretti, thank you for that super chat. That's very, very, very kind of you. It is super cool. You guys know I'm always rooting for every single company to succeed. That's just the reality of it. I do not care about console wars. I tell you guys this all the time. I want, ideally, if it was up to me, I would want every single console this gen to sell over 100 million units. That would be absolutely incredible if we could see that. Do I think that's going to happen? No. But would I love to see that happen? Absolutely. I want them all to succeed. So the fact that we're going to have a huge Nintendo game in Mario Wonder, we're going to have a huge Sony game with Spider-Man 2, we're going to have a huge Xbox game with Starfield, this is nothing but good news to me. I want, ideally, all of this to be happening all of the time. I want to see big, huge exclusives, big AAA games from all of them, and I want them all to do well. So it's very cool. Spagdretti, I think we should have a potentially very, very good holiday season for sales of the new platforms in particular. Switch as well, but again, Switch is just slowly declining, but it's very good news. Very good news. They each have a flagship, and I think all of those flagships in various ways are going to perform well. So, yeah, nothing but great news for Spagdretti. Thanks for that super chat, bud. Joseki with a 2. Benji, annual encouragement to play Xenoblade, LOL. I know I need to, dude. Look. Here you go, dude. They're right here. Can you see them? We got the definitive edition, we got 2, and we got 3 right here, dude. I gotta play them. You are right. It's just, the problem is they're such long games, and I'm trying to like constantly play like the new stuff so that like I've got the good coverage for what's currently happening, like what's the current interesting games. Oh yeah, I was holding them too low on the camera, it looks like. But you guys see. Yeah, I gotta play them. I hear nothing but great things. I just got to get to it. I also still have to play the Kingdom Hearts franchise. How crazy is that? I've never played a Kingdom Hearts game. What? Yeah, true. Never played one. Carlos Alvarado here with a 199 super chat. Benji, ExoPrimal doing well on Xbox and Game Pass. It is. I've almost made a tweet about this. But I was wanting to see if it rose up like one more spot. Yeah, ExoPrimal surprisingly doing like really solid on Xbox. It does not appear to be doing well on PlayStation. It does not appear to be doing well at all on Steam. But it seems that this game has actually gotten quite good engagement on Xbox platforms, clearly because of the day one Game Pass launch. So let's see. Let me go back to Xbox Most Played. I want to say it's at number 11 in the US, which is a very strong result, to be honest, because all of those top games are typically mostly the very big service games. You know, the Apexes, the GTAs, the Rainbow Six Sieges. Oh, it's up to number 10. Dude, you guys want to hear something crazy? There's more people playing ExoPrimal right now on Xbox than Diablo 4. Wow. I'll tell you what, sometimes we have these debates about, is it good for a third-party game to launch on Game Pass? Is it bad for a third-party game to launch on Game Pass? I think there's arguments for both. I would say ExoPrimal, this was a very good decision by Capcom to launch it on Game Pass. Yep. Because the game doesn't appear to be high enough quality that I think it would have found a ton of success outside of Game Pass, as we're kind of seeing on PlayStation and as we're kind of seeing on what it appears to be like on Steam. Like, a lot of people aren't necessarily, it looks like, willing to go out and buy ExoPrimal. However, they're getting, I'll just be honest, top 10 on Xbox Most Played. Any game that makes that top 10, that's a great result. And that is clearly being fueled by the Game Pass day one launch. So this was one of those scenarios where it was a good decision, in my opinion, for a third-party developer to launch a game day one on Game Pass, because I don't think a ton of people would have bought ExoPrimal. But now they've got quite a few people playing it, and maybe they can get some of them. You know, it's not going to stay top 10. It's just not. But maybe they can get some of those people to buy microtransactions, DLC, whatever in it. So, and obviously they got a Game Pass bag from Microsoft. So that was one scenario where it was a good choice for Capcom. Jarimo says, yo, the entire trilogy. Yeah, I've got them all, man. I just still haven't played them. I've meant to play them for years. You guys know how it is. There's so many games constantly coming out, man. And Geronimo says, ExoPrimal got me to resubscribe to Game Pass on PC. Yeah, so to even follow up on that, guys, listen to how well it's doing on Game Pass PC. Okay. Like I said, this was one of those scenarios Capcom did make the right decision going day one on Game Pass. Because I just don't think it would have sold, really, anyways, outside of Game Pass. Yeah, right now, ExoPrimal on PC Game Pass, top 3 most popular, and really, that's actually top 2 most popular, because number 1 never changes on PC Game Pass. It's Microsoft Solitaire Collection, and that game comes downloaded every time you install Game Pass. Like, it just automatically gets installed onto your thing. So that like literally never moves. It's always that. So I kind of like, whenever I look at the rankings for PC, I don't even factor Solitaire, because it's literally, I've never seen it move out of number 1. I don't think, maybe like once. It's number 2 really under Forza Horizon 5, and it's above everything else. So yeah, Game Pass was the right choice for ExoPrimal in this instance. Yeah. Geronimo says it would have flopped commercially 100%. Yep. There's some games I think it would be a bad decision to launch day one on Game Pass. For example, I think it would be a bad idea for what's a huge third-party AAA game launching this year. What's a big one? I don't know. I'm trying to think. Avatar, right? Or Alan Wake. Alan Wake 2, maybe it would have been a good idea, but we'll see how Alan Wake 2 sells. But you know what I'm getting at. Some big, giant AAA games, I think it would be a mistake to launch day one on Game Pass, because I think your game would get cannibalized. A game like ExoPrimal, though, I think it was the right call. All right, like 1 or 2 more and I got to go. 1 or 2 more and I got to go. I'm just going to pull out 1 or 2, and then we're going to bounce. Yeah, you're spot on, Guillermo. I think we didn't see more Tony Hawk Pro Skater right away because it was the devs, Vicarious Visions, were incorporated into Blizzard. You are correct. And they went to work on Diablo. You are 100% correct on that, Guillermo. And now Microsoft needs to do good on this and get more Tony Hawk. It's a big mistake if they don't. It's not going to be the best-selling game in the world. Like, it's not going to sell 30 million units, but it's just one of those games that's going to be really nice for your library, and I think will be successful. Oh, David Taylor with a member question. David Taylor, I think, was the only member that hasn't gotten a question answered. Also tell that theoretical Microsoft employee to do a Master Chief Collection style release for Call of Duty. Oh, that'd be dope. If nothing else, it'll get those games on PlayStation 5 and make bank. David Taylor, this is actually like a pretty smart idea. A Master Chief Collection style of classic Call of Duty games. That would be like bundled together in one. Like with maybe like 4K. Oh, dude, that would be actually, David, I like this idea. I think you're onto something, David. I like that. Maybe do like a Black Ops collection or something like that. Because I don't think you could do like every single classic Call of Duty, because there's so many. But maybe you could do like a Modern Warfare collection and like a Black Ops collection. I don't know, something like that. That'd be pretty sweet. All right, I think we're gonna bounce there. Yeah, exactly. Peter 420. Yep, right on. Assassin's Creed Mirage, Avatar, etc. Even though they'll be on Ubisoft Plus day one. Beef Hammer says Mirage. Yeah, exactly. Games like that I would not put day one on Game Pass because I think you're going to get sales cannibalized. Doesn't mean I don't think you should bring it to Game Pass later. I just wouldn't do it day one. But yeah, something like ExoPrimal, good call. Good call on that one. And Specdretti, this is the last one. This is where we're going to end it. What is your game of the year? Right now, if I had to pick game of the year right now for me, it's Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I think it's pretty clearly Tears of the Kingdom. If I was going to name my top three games right now for the year, they would be number 1, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Number 2, Final Fantasy 16. And number 3, let me think. Let me look at what I've played. Again. Number 1, we're going Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Number 2, we're going to go Final Fantasy 16. And number 3, we're going to go maybe Hi-Fi Rush. Which is funny because that is an exclusive to each platform, and I wasn't even thinking about that, but I think those might be my top 3. That's funny. I didn't even intentionally do that. I just think those are probably the 3. I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet, so keep that in mind. Loved Dead Space Remake, but I don't know if it would go top 3 for me. Loved Street Fighter 6, but I don't know if it would go top 3. Really loved Hogwarts Legacy, but I don't think it would go top 3. So yeah, I think those are my top 3, which I don't know if that's ever happened before, where my top 3 games of the year at this point in time are from each console holder. But yeah, I would go number 1, number 1, Tears of the Kingdom, number 2, Final Fantasy 16, and number 3, Hi-Fi Rush. Those would be my top 3. All Light's official. I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet, so that might make it. That's what I'm going to play next. I'm on the last quest, the last mission for Diablo 4 right now. I'm literally about to finish the Diablo 4 campaign, and then I'm going straight into Jedi Survivor. So Jedi Survivor might make my top 3. I just haven't played it yet. So yeah, those are my top 3 as of right now, but we still have a lot of games to come. Kazimo, Resident Evil 4 Remake I loved, but it's not top 3 for me. My nuclearly hot take is I like Resident Evil 2 Remake more than Resident Evil 4 Remake, but that doesn't mean I didn't love Resident Evil 4 Remake. I actually like Dead Space Remake more than I like Resident Evil 4 Remake. And again, I know it's going to be a hot take because a lot of people, Resident Evil 4 is like one of their greatest games of all time, and I loved it. I loved the 4 Remake. But no, that definitely does not make my top 3. Not at all. My top 10, yes, but it would not make my top 3. All right. I'm going to end it there, guys. Thank you so much. Another great stream in terms of engagement. Love you guys. Hope you guys had fun. I know I absolutely had a good time. Thanks for all of you guys' great questions. Thank you to all of the channel members out there that become channel members. I really appreciate it so much. Thanks to the super chats. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We will absolutely be back next week with another stream. And as always, everyone, stay safe. Play some games, and I will catch you guys all either on Twitter here very, very soon, or if you only follow me here on YouTube, I will see you next week here on YouTube. All right, everyone, have a great day or great night wherever you are. You're all amazing. Adios. See ya. Bye.